Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here today on our Total Wellness Tuesday episode, where we are going to be going over new research and a new discovery on cancer and your sleep clock. Really excited to be able to go over this topic today because I know that there's so much misinformation out there right now on really that it doesn't matter when you go to bed and it doesn't really matter when you wake up in the morning. And I know that there's a lot of brilliant researchers out there that are arguing both sides of the equation. But what I want to share with you is this, is that when you stop living within the natural laws of this universe and the earth that we live on, things are going to always go wrong for you. Meaning that you might be those one lucky genetic individuals that doesn't get these certain specific types of disease, but your likelihood goes up dramatically. So what we are finding, again, is a rediscovery of Ayurvedic-based principles that have been around from the dawn of time. We're only rediscovering them now because modern technology has allowed us to do two things. The first is that it's allowed us to get further away from nature. Okay? So sometimes that's not necessarily a bad thing. We actually have a roof over our head now. We can control the climate. We can make it 70 degrees inside the house whenever we choose to. We can communicate anywhere in the world. All of those things are fantastic. We have light. We can stay up at night if we need to stay up at night. So the second part is this, though. Because of all these great modern-based technologies, it's also caused us to get further away from our natural-based laws of living. And when that happens, we have more disease. It's why right now we spend more on healthcare than we ever have before, yet we're more sick than we've ever been before. More cases of autoimmune issues, first generation now being born that will die younger than their parents, less life expectancy. Life expectancy actually went down a few years ago for both men and women by about a year. So how can this be when we have all of these new pharmaceutical drugs, right? We're able to get interventions at a faster rate. We have more lab testing in conventional medicine than ever before, yet people are as sick, if not worse than ever. In terms of depression, well, those rates are only going up, especially in children as well. And then what about obesity? Well, people are not losing weight. They're actually gaining more weight, even though there's more talked about in the media with all sorts of weight loss-based fads, etc. So clearly, we have more technology, we have more resources than ever before, yet it is not serving us as a culture, as a global-based community. And one of the big ways that we can begin to improve our overall health is by understanding that when we go to sleep and when we wake up matters. It's one of the foundational based protocols that every single person in my practice and a lot of my colleagues' practices follow. So if you read my book, The Rain Barrel Effect, you know that I go over diet, of course, right? Everyone has to have a proper nutrition plan, exercise, stress reduction, toxin removal, rest and sleep protocols, emotional balance, science-based supplement protocols, as well as a success mindset, an ability to believe you can and will be well, right? So you have to have those things. That's the de-stress protocol. I've been using that for many, many years in my practice. I wrote about it in The Rain Barrel Effect. If you haven't read that, of course, you can pick up a copy where all profits are donated to charity. So I want to share with you this, though, because we are talking about sleep, and I have talked about this quite a bit. And the reason why is that I don't put any one of those 8 parts to my program above one another. So sleep isn't necessarily more or less important than the food that you put in your body. Because you can be eating really well, but if you're not sleeping properly, you're not going to be healthy. It's difficult to be healthy. If you don't get at least an hour of deep sleep, if you don't get at least 90 minutes, like minimum of REM sleep, ideally 2 hours REM or more, and an hour and a half of deep or more. But if you don't get at least that, it's not going to go well, right? If you don't get at least 7 hours of sleep, the likelihood of you ending up with some type of inflammatory disease goes way up. So I will, before I give you the discovery, I will agree that there is some bio-individuality to sleep. And again, they've known this in Ayurveda for many, many years. The Kapha body type, typically, they like their sleep, but they need a little bit less, right? They're a little bit more sluggish in the morning, but they don't need as much, right? Pitta body type, right in the middle, depending on how active they are, they might need a little bit more. And then the Vata-based body type, well, they're going to need more to that 8 to 9 hours, closer to the 9 hours, because their nervous systems are running at a higher degree in that sympathetic nervous system than most of the other individuals, and they suffer from more oxidative stress, more catabolism than more of that Kapha body type, and so they need more time to rebuild and repair, and that makes sense. So I do agree that there's a plot within all of this of 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Studies have found that when you get less than that 7 or more than about 9 to 10 hours of sleep, well, your health can actually decrease as well. So there's a sweet spot within that. Now, let's go over, though, a lot of the research, which I knew from the very beginning was going to be proven to be wrong. And that's this whole thing about chronotypes, right? This chronotype talking about like a lot of, again, I love research and I read all the research of many brilliant PhDs and many people in labs looking at this research. But I'll tell you this, is that they are selective. They are looking at very limited data points, again, typically across one particular research study that they're looking at. And their results and findings are actually true. But how long are they true? A 6-week study, a 12-week study, a 6-month study? Well, what about a 30-year study, right? People are living into their 70s. So how long is the study going to go? Now, the good news is we don't have to go by just one study alone. We've known for many years that those people who work the overnight shift have a higher chance of cancer and many different types of disease. And with more and more research and technology, that's why we do want to keep up with our research. We're understanding why. Now, why did I know and believe that those researchers saying that everybody has a different chronotype, which is different circadian rhythm, some people are more night hours than others, is going to be incorrect? Here's why. Our bodies respond to light, okay? And it's not just your eyes. So keep in mind, those people whose vision or eyesight is not great or they don't have it at all still respond to light. And that's because there are photoreceptors beyond just the retina and the eye itself, that they're actually on the skin. And the brain then gets signals as to whether it is daylight or whether it is nighttime. And some of the most important signals are the rising sun and the setting sun. And that is because your hormones actually respond to this light spectrum. And it's not just one spectrum, right? It's a spectrum of light. So as the sun begins to rise, the body knows it is now time to slow and shut melatonin production. That's the sleep hormone, right? But it does a whole lot of other things we just found, which is improve antioxidant capacity of the body, improve repair, and potentially may act as a anti-cancer based mediator as well. So melatonin, though, starts to get shut during the day. And the reason is we need cortisol to rise. And they're in an inverse pattern or inverse rhythm. When melatonin drops, cortisol should rise. Cortisol is what gives us energy. It's what wakes us up. It has more of a catabolic nature. It allows us to move into that sympathetic nervous system. And other hormones follow suit. Cortisol and thyroid need each other, right? Thyroid needs cortisol. Cortisol needs thyroid. Too much cortisol, well, too little thyroid, right? That's important to look at it as well, but they need to be all in balance. Testosterone, those androgens, we need that morning light. It's a big part of it as well. But let's move beyond hormones just for a second, because as we begin to look at neurotransmitters, we can start to show that dopamine and other of the excitatory neurotransmitters can begin to be ramped up with the beginning of the day as well. But what happens if dopamine and norepinephrine and other excitatory neurotransmitters are low? Well, we begin to see more lower mood, brain fog, grogginess, depression. When we're looking at that, as we're saying, well, this person is essentially never waking up. Their body, their nervous system, their subconscious, all of that locked in is tired. It's exhausted. Their body needs a little bit of a wake-up call, a little bit of a push. Now, this can happen if they miss that morning sunlight, if they sleep until 10, 11 o'clock, right? But there's a converse to all of this as well, is that we're finding that it may be equally as important, if not more important, than exactly and precisely when we wake up, because we're going to get that light, is to make sure that we go to bed before 11 p.m. So now it could be 9, it could be 10, it could be 11, right? Just like waking up between somewhere typically between 6 and 8 in the morning, right? Or within that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. There's a little bit of play, but nobody is meant to stay up till 2 in the morning. That's just not how it works. So we've got neuroscience, we have the detox factors within the body, we've got the anabolism, and we have melatonin. So we'll look at this. The lowest point of cortisol is typically around 9:30 p.m. This will differ based on season. It stays lighter later in the summer, right? So cortisol's peak might be at its lowest, maybe around 10:30. But during most months, the average is around 9:30 p.m. That means that the body is meant to be getting into bed or already in bed at that time, give or take, let's say 30 minutes. And it also means that a couple hours before, the sun started to set. Now, it's important, ideally, that we see the setting sun. We don't need to stare out our window and watch it set, although that is quite nice. But what we need to do is have access to that light so that our body can get the signals that it's time to slow cortisol production. It's time to shut down from the sympathetic nervous system more towards the parasympathetic nervous system so that the body can begin to rest and repair. Also at this time, the whole mind should begin to shift to calmer brain waves. This allows more GABA, more serotonin, and more melatonin. And a lot of people don't know that serotonin actually helps in the production of melatonin. And if cortisol is still too high at night, which it shouldn't be, then that's going to stop the production of melatonin as well. So melatonin is one of these key factors that we are finding with circadian rhythm, and it should begin to be naturally produced with the setting sun and as cortisol begins to drop around that 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock hour. If we begin to follow these natural rhythms, we'll see that the body's meant to go to bed somewhere around 10 and wake up somewhere around 6. For some people, it might be a little later, a little bit earlier, and their wake time might be a little bit earlier, a little bit later. Not too much, within an hour variance or so. Now, if we do that, well, we're on the path to better brain health, better mood, better happiness, because we know that depression levels are going to be higher during the months when there's not a lot of sun, right? We know that. That's a fact. That's why using light boxes and other things that I've talked about in the past can be game changers in terms of mood. But we also want to make sure that you're producing enough cortisol in the morning, enough thyroid hormone in the morning, so that you can have a natural rhythm of being energetic in the morning and then letting things calm down at night. So there's not too many of those excitatory neurotransmitters at night when they should be more in the morning. So now what has really these discoveries taught us? And I'm going to link it up here today. So if you head over to stevencabral.com/1838, you can read the study for yourself. And it's really interesting. This is published on cancer.gov, right? National Cancer Institute, NIH, and it says new cancer treatment approach target circadian clock. So in these lab experiments, what they've done is they've used these specific targeted drugs that help with resetting the biological clock. So what it's done is it started to look at the relationship between light and darkness and how melatonin is produced at night. But what it does and what it's found is that inside of the brain, they're calling it the master clock. So the master clock in the brain senses whether it's daytime or nighttime, which means that if you're staying up late at night and you have lights on, your brain is getting the signal that it's still daytime. The problem is you go to bed a few hours later, if you're staying up late as a night owl, you actually end up shortchanging your body's ability to repair. So what it talked about is that there are on-off signals in your body for autophagy, essentially, and that's the destruction of these cancer cells. And it's also an on-off switch in terms of energy. What they found is that healthy cells, they don't need a lot of energy in order to replicate and divide and all that, but cancer cells do. Right? So cancer cells do. So what happens is if you're not producing energy at the right time, or you're shifting into more of that sympathetic nervous system later at night as well, it's allowing a higher stress-based production and something called REV and ERB proteins, which are the key components of the clock machinery that repress biological functions that cancer cells depend on, such as cell division and cell metabolism. So what happens is if we are not getting proper sleep at the proper times, going to bed when it's dark, waking up when it's light, then cancer cells are able to multiply to a greater degree. So in lab experiments, the researchers found that 2 REV-ERB agonists killed different types of cancer cells, including brain, colon, and breast cancer, even though the cells had different genetic mutations that drive cancer growth. The REV-ERB agonists did not kill healthy brain or skin cells, however, which is pretty phenomenal, right? So this is a targeted approach because it's actually not working specifically on the cancer cells, but rather the natural biological rhythms that take place in our body. We have to understand is that we will never, well, maybe we will thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in the future, right? But at least for right now, we do not understand all of the intricacies that take place within our body, even though medical science is absolutely brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But we still don't know exactly all of it, how to keep these bodies healthy, except we do know how to live within the natural laws that have been given to us. The foods that have been given to us, the rest that has been given to us, the light and the day. We have to understand is that we are not carnivores. That's pretty straightforward, right? Our bodies are built nothing like carnivores at all. We have to understand is that we are not nocturnal. If we could, we'd be able to see in the dark, no problem at all. We certainly can see in the dark to a degree, but if we were ever to go out in the wild, we are not nocturnal, that's for sure. We cannot see in the dark like other nocturnal animals are, and we would be easy prey to those specific animals. Okay, when we look at this as well, if we ever have gone out on a camping trip or extended time in nature, or you don't have shades in your bedroom, whatever it might be, you know that you're going to wake up within 20 minutes, half hour, hour maximum of that rising sun. Our body will naturally reset in order to wake us up because it's natural. Melatonin production gets stopped and slowed with the rising sun. Cortisol levels begin to rise between 6 and 8 in the morning. Excitatory neurotransmitters begin to rise. We lift our mood, we lift our spirits, we lift our energy with that sunlight in the morning. And then, of course, at night, if we don't have all the lights on in the house, we should start to get a little bit tired. It doesn't happen overnight, but we get a little bit more tired without all of this blue light and these lights at night. So I'm going to link up this article to you, but it's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely positive in terms of looking at natural circadian rhythm, how there's no such thing. I mean, again, I know that there are night owls. I used to be one. I used to like to stay up till 1, 2 in the morning. I felt like I got a lot of work done. I got a second wind. I've said this before, but I want you to understand is if you don't get to bed by 10, 10:30, you start to get a second wind because cortisol, believe it or not, actually starts to rise a little bit after its precipitous drop right around 9:30 p.m. So you do actually feel like you'll get a second wind. And if you have all the lights on in your house, well, your brain doesn't know to begin to produce more melatonin. So what I urge you to do is, I know that not everyone's going to get to bed by 10 o'clock. I understand it. I get it. I realize that. All I want you to do is begin to work back by 15 minutes each week. That's it. To a desired bedtime that works for you, ideally at 11 p.m. or before. So if you're going to bed at 1 p.m. like I used to do, or 1 a.m. I should say, then you're going to go to 12:45, and the next week 12:30, and the next week 12:15, and that will begin to help you. You can also use proven supplement sleep protocols just for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks that could involve liquid melatonin, which is non-groggy, some magnesium citrate, some adrenal soothe, all sorts of great products. You can find what we use in our practice over at equi.life, EQUI.LIFE. key. And what I'd also recommend is tuning back into additional sleep-based shows that I've done that are going to talk more about those specific tips. So I'll link all those up for you today, as well as the research at stevencabral.com/1838. And just remember that if new research that you read ever contradicts the natural, healthy laws of this world, well, you might want to just wait a couple years to see what other research comes out as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day. And of course, do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thank you so much for just tuning into the show. And before you go, I want to make sure that if you have not previously checked out our online practice at equa.life, I can't recommend it enough this week. And here's why. Right now at EquaLife, we are giving away our immunity bundle completely free on all orders over $199. Let me share with you why this is such a big deal. This is the exact protocol we are recommending and have been recommending before all the other protocols had come out way back in March. So basically a year ago. This is the vitamin C, the balanced zinc, and the vitamin D that most people need, if not everyone, in order to keep their immune system firing on all cylinders. This is the protocol that, if you use nothing else, has been clinically proven to boost the immune system. This means in conjunction with, let's say you're using daily foundational protocol level 1, level 2, level 3, using all your other great products, you cannot forget about boosting your vitamin C, your zinc with that little bit of copper, B6, and vitamin C in there in order to boost immunity and boost absorption, plus that vitamin D, which is typically dosed at 35 IUs per pound of body weight. If you don't know exactly what that is, it's just about 4,000 to 5,000 IUs per day for most adults. And honestly, this whole protocol is as simple as using 1 scoop of the vitamin C alkalizing vitamin C powder, 1 capsule of balanced zinc with dinner, and 4 drops of the vitamin D liquid at any time you want during the day. We typically just put it in our breakfast smoothie or something like that. So again, super easy to use. And why is it such a big deal? Well, now more than ever, we need to boost our immune systems, but also this is a $99, I believe it's a $99 bundle that typically people are using on a daily basis, or about $3 a day. Not a huge investment into our overall health and how much that means for us. But we're giving that away, that $99 bundle away, completely free on all orders over $199 right now. So if you're already using the immunity bundle, pick one up, give it to a parent, give it to a sibling, give it to a coworker, whoever might need it. And we are doing this, again, you know that if we give away a bundle at $99, it's not about the money. It's really not. It's about trying to get these protocols to as many people as possible. That's what it's all about. At times like this, it's really about sharing our mission of hope and healing and try to get through this together as much as we can. So if my team gave me the go-ahead in order to be able to give away a huge discount like this, then we're going to take advantage of it. So please, while supplies last, take advantage of this. It is a free immunity bundle on all purchases over $199 while supplies last. We have about 500 of these. And you can just go to equi.life. That's equi.life for all the details. Take care, everyone.